Okay, 5 beautiful Divrei Torah to share with you today. So I'm just gonna mute everybody. Great. 5 beautiful Divrei Torah for the Parsha. The Parsha here, Parshat Naso. Parshat Shlach. Who's Parshat Shlach? Parshat Shlach. The main story. Parshat Shlach really is a tragic Parsha, which discusses chiefly, the story of the Chet HaMeraglim. Chet HaMeraglim has serious repercussions on the future and the destiny of Klal Yisrael. Up until this point, maybe we know it because we're looking at the Torah from a certain vantage point. But up until this point, the Jewish people didn't know how long they were going to be in the Midbar for, how long they'd be in the desert for. One of the gzeros, so one of the punishments or consequences of Chet HaMeraglim was that they would end up being in the desert for 40 years in total. One day for a day that they walked. It could have taken longer, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu had compassion and mercy on us. But in addition to that, and perhaps maybe even worse than that, is that the date of the Meraglim's report was on a date that became an auspicious day for Klal Yisrael, and that is Tisha B'Av. It became a day of destruction and a day of mourning for the Jewish people, then and then ultimately forever. We daven for the day that Tisha B'Av is no longer a day of sadness and a day of crying, but it becomes a day of simcha v'sason, a day of joy and a day of celebration. B'ezrat Hashem, in the future, as we are entering this week, this upcoming week, we're entering the Chodesh of Tammuz, and we enter that darker period of the year. We daven and yearn for a time when we can see joyous days and celebrate together. B'ezrat Hashem, in Yerushalayim, Yer HaKadosh. And that really all comes and stems from our Parsha. That's really the main discussion of the Parsha. The Parsha at the end discusses several different mitzvos related to HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give us hope and yearning and excitement that we will enter the land of Israel. So he gave us certain mitzvos that are tluyos ba'aretz, that are only kept in the land of Israel. And the last Parsha in the entire Torah is something that is very near and dear to many of us here. It's a Parsha that we read 3 times a day. It's the third Parsha in Shema, which is the Parsha of Tzitzis. I'll just leave this as a question. You could think about it is, we read, right, there are 3 paragraphs of Shema. You have Shema / V'ahavta, then you have the Haya, and then you have Vayomer, which is the Parsha of Tzitzis in our Parsha. They're out of order, right? They're out of order. In the Torah, it doesn't go in that order. In the Torah, it's really, the first Parsha is the 3rd paragraph, and then it's the 1st paragraph, and it's the 2nd paragraph. Why is that significant in any way? That teach you anything halakhically, number 1, but is there anything significant to that notion? So let's get started. Shlach to go, 5 Divrei Torah for our Shabbos table. First idea comes from a Kli Yakar. This might be a well-known idea to some of us. And we're really going to talk about different issues related to the Meraglim. That's going to be about 3 out of the 5 Divrei Torah. What were the flaws of the Meraglim? So one is, it wasn't a flaw of the Meraglim, but it was a flaw of who they were as people. What does that mean? Shlach lecha anashim v'yasiru es eretz Canaan asher ani nosein lifnei Yisrael. Hashem tells Moshe, send men. Right? There's a big discussion. Moshe, whose idea was this? Was Moshe's idea? Was it Hashem's idea? Was it really the Jewish people pushing up to Moshe and Moshe acquiescing to the complaints and the hysteria of the Jewish people? It's very unclear. But shlach lecha anashim, Moshe says, Hashem says, send men. Send men. Says the Kli Yakar. The Kli Yakar was a great rabbi, Rafael Lunchitz. He was a Rav. Anyone know what city he was a rabbi in? He was a rabbi in Prague. The Maharasha gets all the credit for Prague, right? The Maharasha has a statue in the center of Prague, center of the city. I was privileged to be there almost 20 years ago. But he was the rabbi after the Maharasha, the Kli Yakar. He appears in all the Mikras Gedolos, and he writes the following: Davar acher, lekach prat anashim, v'shamar razal ha'anashim hayusonim es haaretz, v'amru niftuna rosh v'nashuv mitzrayim. The men were the ones that were always complaining. Whenever there was a complaint to go back to Mitzrayim, we don't want to go further along in this journey to Eretz Yisrael. We want to leave and we want to go back to Mitzrayim. We want to go back to Egypt. We had it good there. Who were those that were complaining? Who were the people that complained? It was the men. The women will learn this, right? This Chazal by the Benot Slofchad, which we'll learn about in a few weeks from now. The Nashim were mechababos as aretz. Women had this innate, distinct love and ahava for the land of Israel, differently than men. And he says that if Hashem just would have sent women to spy out the land, we wouldn't have these problems. They would always have seen the goodness and the greatness and the beauty in the land of Israel. But unfortunately, men were sent, and they have a different way to look at the world than women do. And they looked at it in a very negative way. So that the flaw was from the start, as I labeled this one. From the start, it wasn't, it was the wrong gender. And if they would have sent women, things would have been a little bit different. That is the first thought. That's the Yakar over here. Second idea, and this is really difficult. Yeah.
So is this the source also that we learn that you need 10 men for a minyan?
Yeah, that comes out later in the Parsha.
And not from here?
Yeah, it's from Meraglim, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that's the reason also why we don't count women for a minyan.
Why is that?
Reason, if this is where you need a minyan for because of this. And women were basically always did the right thing, so they don't need to be counted for a minyan.
Interesting. So you're saying there's a tikkun, that men have to do a tikkun for the Meraglim, perhaps, and the women don't need to do that. Okay, a very interesting idea. Very interesting thought.
So if the women had been sent,
yeah,
then you could not have men for a minyan.
Perhaps. Yeah. Perhaps that would have been. It's unclear. It's unclear. It's a machlokas where the source is. It's a machlokas Bavli Yerushalmi. If you come to my Meshech Megillah Chabur on Tuesday nights, this is actually the topics that we're discussing now, which is the obligations for minyan. So we discussed this source this past Tuesday night. Whereas this is one presentation. The other presentation is that we don't learn it from the Meraglim and from Korach. We learn it from the brothers going down to Egypt. And there were 10, because Yosef was in Mitzrayim, but Binyamin didn't go. So there are two different primary sources. That's the Yerushalmi versus the Bavli, the main source, the one that's most quoted often, which Mendy just said, which is the our psukim and our parsha. Now, you got to see this. This is just fascinating here. So the Torah tells us in a few different places that the Meraglim, one of the stops that the Meraglim went to was a place called Nachal Eshkol. Okay, I don't know where Nachal Eshkol is today. I remember just vaguely, in my memory, seeing it on like a stop on the side of the highway, to an exit on the highway in Eretz Israel. But the pasuk says here, and you see what's missing or adding or what's different or inconsistent in the way the Torah writes the words Nachal Eshkol. Vayavo ad Nachal Eshkol, right? When their Meraglim were traveling, went to Nachal Eshkol. Vayichrasu misham zemora. The Eshkol Anavim Echad. They took they pruned off a branch, they cut off a branch, the Eshkol Anavim, and a bundle of grapes, Echad, Vayisa'u Bamod, and they put on this huge pole, Bishnayim, Umina Riminim, Minatainim, and they also took Rimonim, they took pomegranates, and they took figs. That is one pasuk, okay? Next, in the beginning of Sefer Dvarim, we rehash the story of the Meraglim. Vayifnu vayalu hahara, right? They went up the mountain. Vayavo ad Nachal Eshkol v'iraglu osa, and they spied out the land of Nachal Eshkol. That is two psukim here. Next, vayalu ad Nachal Eshkol vayaru es haaretz v'yinu es lebnei Yisrael levilti na el haaretz asher nasan lahem Hashem. Now in Bamidbar Lamed Beis, this is almost 20 prakim later in the same sefer. We see how the Jewish people go up to a place or near a place called Nachal Eshkol. And then we go up to Nachal Eshkol, you see something different the way the word Nachal Eshkol is spelled. Anyone see any difference in the way the word is spelled?
The Vav.
The Vav. Was that Jay? Yeah, excellent, Jay. So asks Rav Chaim Kanievsky, Shlita, and the Ksava Kabbalah, Rav Yaakov Tzvi Mecklenburg, who lived in the 1800s, same question. It's inconsistent. There's not even, right? Rabbi Yudin loves to say, not even one extra letter in the entire Torah, right? So if you look here, why in Bamidbar, in our Parsha, when it says Nachal Eshkol, it presents it without a Vav. And it's consistent because in Devarim Aleph Chaf Daled, right, same recounting the story, also it tells us that the Meraglim went to Nachal Eshkol without a Vav, right? It's written Chaser, without the Vav. Yet, in Bamidbar Lamed Beis, when it presents Nachal Eshkol, it says that they went to Nachal Eshkol with Malay, with the Vav. What's going on here? Is the Torah mistaken, right? Was this a scribal error? Or is there something deeper going on here? So the Ksav Kabbalah and Rav Chaim Kanievsky both say the same beautiful idea. They say the following. Why was Nachal Eshkol called Nachal Eshkol originally? There are two reasons why it was called this. So way back when in Parshat Lech Lecha, we learn that Avraham Avinu had three friends. He had three friends. Anyone know their names? He had three friends. They're called Balei Bris Avraham. He had Aner, Eshkol, and Mamre. That's the pasuk in Maharasha says. He had three friends, Aner, Eshkol, and Mamre. They're called Balei Bris Avraham. They helped him out in the war of the 4 kings versus the 5 kings. Look at the way the word Eshkol is spelled over here. It's spelled without a vav. So the Ksav Kabbalah says like this, something really amazing. He said, see how the Torah is so precise in every single letter. So what happened? Why was it called Nachal Eshkol? It was called Nachal Eshkol in Eretz Yisrael. That city was called Nachal Eshkol it was named after Avram's friends. Right? We have Elonei Mamre after some of the other friends. And you have Eshkol named after it. That's why it's Eshkol without a Vav. It's named directly after him. Yet, it changed. The name changed. Why did the name change? Because Eshkol also means a bundle of grapes. It also means a bundle of grapes. And when the Meraglim went there, what did they take from Nachal Eshkol? They took an Eshkol Anavim. They took a bundle of grapes. If you notice here in the pasuk, the word Eshkol here is spelled with a Vav. So the name changed. Why did the name change? Because once the Meraglim went there, and they took this Eshkol of Anavim, and they went back to the Jewish people. And this is Exhibit A, why you should have moved to Eretz Yisrael, because of the large grapes that are part of the land, and shows how the giants are there, and we're never going to conquer the land. It's impossible for God, Chas v'shalom, to conquer the land. The entire essence of the place changed. The essence of the place changed. It's called Eshkol, right? It's spelled in English the same way. But in Hebrew, the essence changed. It's no longer Eshkol without the Vav. Now it's Eshkol with the Vav to remind us of the story of the Meraglim. That's why now it's so meduyak, it's so precise. In Bamidbar Yud Gimel, in Devarim Aleph, when it's talking about before this actually happened, before the Meraglim complaint, it's Eshkol without the Vav. In Bamidbar Lamed Beis, which is after, it's post-Meraglim, this is 38 years after the Meraglim story actually happened, the Torah calls it Nachal Eshkol with a Vav. This is already post that story, therefore its name changed. The purpose of the land changed. That's exactly what the Ksav Kabbalah says right here. Beshkol Hasheni hu al haprit hu malevav lahoros al hashinoi hamuvan shebenehem, to show you the difference in the meaning of the places now than from before. Before is all about Avram Avinu and his friend, and now it changed, and the story of the Meraglim impacted the destiny of that place. This shows you really, first of all, the impact of the place, right? The impact of the place that we can have on a place and change that name, but shows you the precision of which the Torah was written in, which is so amazing, so beautiful. That is the second thought over here. The third, I'm going to try to quote from Rabbi Lamm for the next Bezrat Hashem. We're still in Shloshim right now for Rabbi Lamm. Rabbi Lamm in a drasha in June 14th, 1969, just a few weeks before the moon landing. I think last year. For those that remember, it feels like 10 years ago, but last summer, in the beginning of July, I gave a shir. We learned about the first moon landing and the halachic implications of that, and how you keep Shabbos on the moon and Zmanim. I think we quoted a drush of Rabbi Lamm that he gave in September of that year, around I think it was during Yom Neraim, about the moon landing, but this is a few weeks before. And he asked the following question. It's not related to the moon landing. He asked the following question. He says the following. he says, why is it that, there are two sins that really bookend the Jewish people stay in the Midbar, not in terms of years, but in terms of the calamity and the strength and the power of them. And that is, on one hand, you have Chet HaEgel, and on the other, you have Chet HaMeraglim. And if you look at the psukim in terms of the reaction from the Jewish people and the sin and the repair of the sin, they're very, very similar. Most of them are mentioned again in our Parsha. There's a lot of similarities here. Yet, in terms of the impact on these two mitzvos, right, which one did God get angrier at? Right, Chet HaEgel, there are significant amount of people died, but the entire Jewish people were not punished for this. Only a small group. Yet, when it came to the sin of the Meraglim, everybody was punished. The entire generation was punished. Nobody could enter the land of Israel. Now, why is that? Why is that? And you would argue, Avodah Zarah, Chet HaEgel, is much worse than the Chet Meraglim. Why is that? So, Rabbi Lamm quotes the Meshech Chochma, who says the following: Meir Simcha Dvinsk, a great Jewish scholar, Meir Simcha Dvinsk, one of the most illustrious sages of a generation or two ago, made the observation that one of the two major catastrophic episodes of the early history of Israel, the spies and the making of the golden calf, the former, right, was far more serious. God was incensed by the idolatry of the golden calf, but he ultimately forgave the people. However, he refused to forgive the entire generation that was guilty in the incident of the Meraglim. The golden calf, why is this? The golden calf was a sin against God, and this he was able to forgive. But the divisiveness in the wake of the spies' report was a sin against Israel, against the Jewish people, especially against the land of Israel. And when God finds Jews fouling their own nest, he considers it unforgivable. I did the paragraphs out of order. Jewish anti-Jewishness and Jewish enmity to their own land have always been a thorn in the flesh of our people. All too often have Jews been the victim of Jewish betrayal. It is not generally known that the chief of staff of the Roman general Titus, who conquered Jerusalem, set the torch to the Second Temple, ushering in the Great Destruction, which we have been mourning for almost 2,000 years. That person was a Meshech, a renegade Jew who was no less the nephew of the great Alexandrian Jewish philosopher Philo. During the Second Commonwealth, informers to Rome and treacherous Jewish sectarians were so common, right, in fact, that it was a man named Zechariah ben Avkulas who ultimately told on the Roman authority, the Gemara says, and he was the one that ultimately led to the destruction of the Jewish people. You see here that Jews going against the Jewish people themselves is far worse than even a sin of Bein Adam Lamakom here. It's a fascinating, a ha'ara that Rabbi Lamm shares in the name of the Meshech Chochma. Okay. Okay, that's another reason. So you ask about why were the sin of the spies so bad? So who were they doing it against? Who is this against? And especially, against the land of Israel, against our own land, that's far worse than, and you see it, the impact of it, than Chet HaEgel itself.
Rabbi? Yeah.
That's I think one of the reasons someone had said whether we use that as a simon for why we have a minyan of 10. This is a negative connotation, so you don't want to use that as a basis for a mitzvah. Whereas if you use the basis of the Meraglim for the reason we have 10 men in a minyan, it's a negative source. You don't want to have that.
You're right. It is very interesting as to why that is the source. The Kleisenberger Rebbe says, because ultimately shows you that a Jew is a Jew. We all can connect opinion. All of us.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. The fourth idea comes from post-Meraglim, right? What happened right after the Meraglim story? So something that you would assume would be just the opposite. So what happens? Vayapilu lalos al rosh har. There was people wanted to make aliyah, right? The first group of Jews that made aliyah in the 1800s, they were called the Ma'apilim. I think more than one group. They called themselves the Ma'apilim, those that jumped early and made Aliyah. Vayapilu la'alos. There's a group of Jews that decided to make Aliyah. La'alos al they weren't going to listen to Moshe, and they weren't going to listen now to the Gzeira, and they wanted to make Aliyah. Va'arom bris Hashem u'Moshe lo mashum mikever machan. Unfortunately, they were all killed. They were all murdered by the hands of the Amalekim, and the Canaanim. They all converged on them, and they killed them. Now, the question that many ask is, just a few minutes ago, right, in our Parsha, just a few moments before this, what happened? Everybody said, what did everybody say? We're not going. We're so scared. It's so dangerous. How can we go to Eretz Israel? And just a few moments later, a group of people get up and go? Like, I don't understand. How does that work? They all were crying. They all were punished as a result. Now they want to go? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So perhaps we can answer this question based on a Tosfos and Kiddushin. Tosfos points out the following, which we know is so true. Tosfos says, the Gemara writes, that Gadol HaMetzuva v'oseh, Yoser Mishe'eno Metzuva v'yoseh. The person that's commanded to do a mitzvah gets a greater reward than the person that's not commanded to do the mitzvah and does it anyway. Right? Which, again, then the question is, what do you mean? It's better for me to wait for my wife to tell me to take out the garbage, right? And then to intuit that that's what she wants me to do and I should do it anyway. So the Tosfos writes, why is that? Why is that? He says, because when one is commanded to do something, one is told to do something, then what's created? The Yetzer Hara is created. What's the Yetzer Hara that's created? We don't want, people in general don't want to listen to other people. And when you're told not to do something, a Yetzer Hara, right? Something inside of us is saying, why don't you try it out? Why don't you touch the fire? Why don't you drink that? Why don't you go there? Because there's an allure that is created when somebody says no. And that is, right? And that's fascinating. That's what Tosfos writes here. That's why it's greater. Someone gets a greater reward if Hashem commanded them to do it versus if there was no commandment to do it. It's a greater reward because of the Yetzer Hara that's created. So perhaps here, based on this is suggested by the Yid HaKadosh, one of the Chassidish Rebbes, he points this out. Such a beautiful idea. So all of a sudden, the Jewish people decided they want to make Aliyah. They said no before. They didn't want to go. They're afraid. Once Hashem said you can't go, once HaKadosh Baruch Hu said you're not allowed to go, doesn't work. You can't go. Not for another 38 years. Then a few people said, like, there was a Yetzer Hara to be rebellious. We want to go against the grain. There was this feeling, this notion that I need to go against them. And that's maybe why we had the Ma'apilim. We had the Ma'apilim over here. Ultimately, it unfortunately led to their demise. But that's a very powerful and very strong idea about the human nature, always trying to go against the grain here. The last one for today, comes from, back to the Meraglim. It comes from their presentation. Many ask, what was the sin of the Meraglim? Where was their mistake? Where was their flaw? Were they telling the truth? Were they lying? What was it? So you see here, from two interpretations here, that they weren't lying, but they were misinterpreting the facts or not relating the facts maybe the way they should. The Ralbag points out here, I think Rabbeinu Levi ben Gershon, he points out here, Vayivo el Moshe vel Aaron al kol das bnei Israel. When the Jewish people came back to report, who should they have gone to? Right? When the Meraglim went on their journey, they came back 40 days later. Where should they have gone first? The answer is, the Ralbag says, they should have gone to Moshe and Aaron first. They should have debriefed Moshe and Aaron, and then all 12 of them together, plus Moshe and Aaron, all 14 of them, should have got together and figured out how to share this news with the Jewish people, right? Instead, what happened? The Meraglim just shared it with everybody. They were honest, according to the Ralbag, and by doing so, they presented it wrongly. And when they did that, they created a hysteria, a mass hysteria amongst Klal Yisrael, which led ultimately to their demise. So this wasn't a mistake in how they did it, but it was a mistake in the process and the order and the procedure of how things are done. And that's something we have to learn about when we share, challenging news with others. We have to think about how it is presented. That is the Ralbag. I think it's a fascinating insight. Second, I think this is extremely sharp. This comes from the Maharasha on the Gemara in Sota. Now, I left it out, but we actually will see it right here because I quoted the pasuk earlier. Which fruit did the Meraglim bring back? Right? They brought back, which fruit did they bring back? They brought back grapes.
The grapes, and then the pomegranates, and then the figs.
And figs. They bring anything else back?
What is that? Is it the order important?
What?
Is the order important? Because then here it's talking about the date honey, and then the milk. Right.
So that's what they brought back. They brought back those three. So now, why is that significant? So they came to the Jewish people and said, we went to the land that you told us to go to, they sent us to. It's a land that's flowing with milk and honey, and these are its fruits. So what does it mean, and these are its fruits? The Maharasha makes a fascinating point here. What does he say? There are 7 indigenous fruits, right? The Shivas Haminim, the 7 indigenous fruits to the land of Israel. You have Eretz Chita, Sorah, Gefen, Teinav, Rimon, Eretz Zeit Shemen, Udvash. What did they purposely bring back? They only brought back the non-essential fruits. 4 of the fruits on this list, grapes, pomegranates, figs, and dates, are things that we all can live without. We don't need them, but they're it's the cherry on the top. It's great. They're special. They show us that Hashem loves us and He wants to give us special fruit. But they don't help us on a day-to-day basis. They're not essential foods. They're not part of that basic food group that we need to survive. But what are part of the basic food group that we do need? That is chita, seorah, and shemen. That is wheat, barley, and oil. Those are essentials that every person needs. They're staples to somebody's home. You need oil, you need barley, and you need wheat. Bread, grain, food products, those are essential. So what were the Meraglim saying? This is such a sharp point. What does he say here? They purposely, right? He says they purposely brought back only the bad food. They brought back the cakes, the cookies, the candies. They said, Hashem wants us to bring it to this land. It's unhealthy. It's unsafe. You see it not only from the giants that live there, but even the food that's in that land. It's not a place where we can actually live and live with a safe habitat in that land. It's just not Hashem, it's not safe there. Right? And they left out the Ikar. He writes, they left out the Gimel Sha'achlu, the 3 Ikar Chaye Nefesh. The 3 fruits that are unique to the land of Israel that we need to survive. And Hashem has both there. He gives us what we need, and He gives us the special fruits too. And they left it out on purpose, right? This is what we call in Israel Hasbara. That you have to look into it. Are these really the only fruits, or are there more? So they did this on purpose to show that they how bad the land was, safe-wise, for the Jewish people.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Rabbi, honestly, in my opinion, I'm more impressed if somebody brings me nice grapes, nice dates, nice pomegranates versus barley and wheat.
Yeah, so I hear you. The Maharasha is basically saying here, this is the same way of saying, look, they have beautiful malls, they have great stores, amazing clothing, they have technology, but guess what? They don't have running water. They don't have bread on their shelves. So if you see that, you're like, this is a backwards country. Why would we want to go there? Okay, they have some really great products and very significant things. I'll purchase, right? We'll import, export from the land of Israel, but why we'd want to live there, it doesn't seem to be a place that has the basic essentials for any human being. That's how the Maharasha was presenting or explained the presentation of the Meraglim. And that's it's a key line. I think it's an amazing idea in what fruits they brought and what fruits they didn't bring. And in terms of when we think of presenting facts or news to somebody else, and this is really what's going on a lot in our news, we have to share, right, the facts, everything, and we don't leave things out of what is reality. So those are our 5 thoughts for today. Number 1, Yakar, men versus women. Number 2, a beautiful deal about the extra, every single letter is accounted for in the Torah, the Eshkol with the Vav, without the Vav, Jews against Jews, then the Meir Simcha. We had the HaKadosh and the Mapilim, and finally, how do we share news effectively? The Ralbag and the Maharasha.
Rabbi,
Shabbos. Yes.
Rabbi, why do we know the main shot why they were so